Hi, I'm Sebastian Terry, and you're watching the Millionaire Student Show with Sashin.
Sebastian, what inspired you, internally? What was that life-changing, defining moment that helped you create the list of 100 things?
Well, I've always been curious from being a kid, and I think ultimately I just always wanted to explore life and see what there was out there. And I came from, I was never really encouraged to go out there and find these things. And that was always playing sort of underneath the surface. And then there were three things really that happened. I went and got a university degree because I was told to do that. And I graduated and I felt really underwhelmed. And I thought, well, what was that about? It didn't really lead me in a direction. I lost a friend of mine who I grew up with playing rugby, went to school with, and he lost his life. And that was very much a catalyst as well. I mean, probably the biggest one for me. I remember thinking, if I was to die today, would I be able to look back at my life and say that I lived a life that I was proud of? Am I happy ultimately? And I think if I asked my friend that, he would be. But for me, the answer was no. And that was when my list started, essentially. And the other thing was I started a business as well. I thought that's what everyone does. You start a business. That equates to happiness, surely. And it doesn't necessarily. So those three things came together in one kind of moment. I had a list and I thought, I'm going to drop everything in my life to pursue this. And that's what I've been doing.
So what is, out of the 100, what's your favorite one that you've managed to tick off?
It's usually the one that I'm currently working on. I mean, I've done a lot of things from, delivering a baby to completing an Ironman to doing stand-up comedy to living on a deserted island for a week by myself. And they're all fantastic. The truth is that the most profoundly impacting one on myself was actually helping somebody else achieve a goal. And that is now my life's purpose rather than my own list. But look, they're all brilliant. To me, they all made a difference, and not necessarily the most world-changing things as well. You know, stand-up comedy doesn't help you, me, or anyone else. But for me personally, it certainly tweaked something inside. And as long as all the things that I'm throwing my energy at make a slight difference, I think I'm going in the right direction.
Great. People don't, they don't create a bucket list because they either don't believe they have what it takes, to tick off the list. There's no desire, or they don't have the financial resources. And, the list, the actual, points that you mentioned it doesn't really need a lot of resources financially. Apparently you had minimal savings when you followed your heart. How simple was your list? Like, if you break it down to the core, did it cost you more of energy and time, or did it cost you more of financial resources?
The key to me completing my list was just, and I think it's the most important thing anyone can really consider or give themselves, and the word is permission. I just gave myself permission to consider what my own version of happiness looked like. And it's a relative concept, it's different for everyone. But that permission allowed me to really look at the things that, those kind of like itches that I really wanted to scratch. And yeah, I never looked at it from a monetary point of view. I just realized that that's what I wanted to prioritize in my life. So I just made it happen with minimal savings. And I do believe if you follow the things that you're very passionate about in your life, be it business, be it personal, be it whatever, the world kind of just shows up to help you out. And that's what's happened. So with my story, I suppose if you looked at it if you broke it down financially, yes, it costs a lot of money. But I got offered to write a book about it at one point, and then there was a TV show suddenly, and there were documentaries, and there were all these things. And I suppose the biggest thing was the kindness of people. The kindness of other people. I was sleeping on floors of strangers I don't know, and I thank them for it every day. I was given food by it was really like that was my daily living for quite a while, but it was perfect because it just allowed me to do the things that I knew were important to me, which was the items from my list. So yeah, I don't think money is the thing we should be focused on. I think purpose is.
Yeah. Before you gave yourself permission, what was life like before that? Was it living under, the society's rules, the world's rules? Were you playing everything according to the book? Because there's a ton of people out there that aren't chasing their dream. They're actually living life just based on other people's terms.
Yeah, I followed, the blueprint to living in Australia. Certainly, it probably applies elsewhere too, I'm sure. But, you go to school, you get a further education so you can get 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs, forge a career, have money, accumulate money, save money, then buy a house and buy a family. No, you wouldn't buy a family, but you could. But all the things, right? And I just thought, this isn't for me. I just felt very dead inside. And so I was following that blueprint. It usually takes, unfortunately, a catalyst of a darker nature for us to find inspiration or motivation to do something. I think that's normal for most people. What I found, of course, looking back retrospectively, is you don't need to wait for a bad moment, because at the end of the day, life's about choice. You choose to be happy, you choose not to be. You choose to walk up the mountain, you choose not to. And so, I think we're all very accountable for the things we do in our life. And once I discovered that, realized that, I decided to live my life differently, and it's just been a choice.
So how has 100 things, inspired people and organizations?
I think people see themselves in me, and at the end of the day, we all have these magnificent minds to think and to conjure up thought and to dream up ideas, etc. And we have these bodies, whatever they can, whatever they can't do, that's what we have. And whether you're an individual or whether you're a corporation, as you say, or an organization or a community or a family, if you actually realize those two things, you start thinking about the things that really do matter to you, and you apply yourself with action. I mean, that's how it's happened. I only forgot your question, actually, but I think it's an important point that, you get those two things together and you just go for it.
Yeah. So, someone going out there and trying to create a list, there's a lot of self-talk. Self-talk taking place where they got to be real, transparent, and honest with themselves. But if they're not content, if they're not happy about life, why would they want to add a list, or why would they want to add something to the list just to go out there and make someone else feel, happy about it?
Well, when you make a list, it's your list. You can't really give in to the pressures of society or families or whatever. And it sounds like a very selfish endeavor, but in part it is. And I think if you kind of do just kind of keel over and do the things that's expected of you or people tell you to do, you do end up living a life for sure, but it's not necessarily the one that you want. And so, I always say that, once you give yourself permission in the first place, be selfish. You get on a plane and they will say to you on every single plane, in case of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on first. Then help other people. And it's true, you need to have your oxygen mask on first. Being selfish, in my opinion, is the very first step to being able to be selfless.
Yes.
And again, on a personal level, in an organization, for your clients, your customers, your peer, you need to know what you stand for. You need to know what your values are. You need to have goals that are very much aligned. And once you start that process of being healthily selfish, you can then help other people.
Your decisions, basically, it leads people with exactly what starts to follow. Once you acknowledge the fact that you're not happy, what's the process to get into a better state?
I think there are many things. Of course, community is great, having friends and all that kind of stuff. In terms of lists and goals and dreams, I think you have to actually take yourself away from that. And it's a matter of cracking down into how do you understand what your values are. That's the question. And there's a million ways to do that. You can go online and there's 1,000, exercises around that. But once you understand your values and you give yourself permission and you understand that your life from this moment on is your responsibility, it's a simple list of meaningful. A list can sound too quirky too. I mean, I hate the term bucket list. It's very commercial. It's very death-centric. Things to do before you die. If it's just things that are important to me that will allow me to be the best version of myself. That's the kind of consideration that's crucial in the first instance. And again, a list means nothing unless you act upon it too. So it's time to consider it, then action.
It's all about execution. So, statistics say that it takes 21 days to create a habit. And, you're going out there and shifting that paradigm. Has it become a habit for you to naturally check off, things on your list, or randomly you don't have it on your list, but you just want to be able to say, hey, I did it?
Yeah, so this might sound silly, but I think I could achieve anything in the world. I just do. And thankfully, I choose to achieve the things that are important to me. And now there's been a shift in my journey where it's not about one man and his list. It's about a big, large community. And I go out of my way to help people and connect people to help each other out. So, yeah, I think anyone is capable of doing anything with the right mindset. And I think once you take those first few steps, you create a flow. You just create a flow. So for me, it's, I very much live a life where if I think of an idea that's important to me and I commit to it, I know I'll do it. But that comes with time. I used to doubt myself. You mentioned earlier, like this kind of negative self-talk. And we all have that, the imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. There's a million reasons why we can't do things we can definitely convince ourselves. But the truth is, there's a million reasons why we can. And if you focus on those things, they become a habit. But yeah, I think action is a crucial, that's the thing. The only thing separating someone from the top of the mountain to the bottom is they chose to walk. And it's a crass analogy, if you will, but it's true.
You're very certain, there's clarity, you know that light at the end of the tunnel, there's a clear picture. And I'm guessing that's come up through trial and error. You've been through a lot of tasks. Now you travel the world. Now you speak in front of, thousands of people. When someone's going out there and creating the list, there's a sense of how real should I be? Should I be limitless when I think? Should I go out there and just be honest and play it safe so I don't disappoint myself?
Obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you and I, we're limitless.
Yeah.
We can go out there and do anything we say, we're going to go out there and check it off.
Sure.
But when someone's going out there and just starting off, foundational phase, foundational thinking, how realistic should they be?
Well, I think it's less a matter of being realistic, because I think big dreams are equally important, limitless thinking, of course, but it just has to be relevant. It just has to be relevant. There's no point in me going outside and running a marathon now just to be able to do an interview and say, yeah, guess what? I ran a marathon. Who cares? If I don't care, it shouldn't matter. So I think it's just relevant goals, no matter how big or small. And I think a sad kind of default to the human condition is we underestimate ourselves a lot by default. And I think once you start trying things that seemingly feel like they're too high, too lofty a goal, you actually surprise yourself when you commit to it. And that's what I certainly found by starting my list. I was like, wow, I'm doing these things. Who'd have thought I could have, kiss a celebrity or whatever it might have been? And but you convince yourself that you can. Suddenly you can, and it's all the belief that leads to the action, which leads to the result. And if those three things line up and are positive, it just starts this incredibly positive loop or flow, if you will. So the world's amazing. Any opportunity that's available to me is available to anyone else. It's just a matter of understanding it and then taking action to find it.
So what is your most surprising, moment that has exceeded your expectations in life, and with you checking off that list?
Well, what's interesting is that it started as a list of 100 things I thought I would need to be happy, or to find happiness, or to find purpose, or whatever. And I mean, again, retrospectively, I've just learned that the list was very much just a vehicle for me to understand who I am. And the key to happiness, if I was to try and be profound for a second, is to just know who you are and be that. And I think that's everyone's task. If everyone on the planet knew who they were and they were just being themselves, whatever that was, the world would be an incredible place. So I think, it sounds like a very simple thing, but it was the most profound thing for me. Who cares if I've, done X, Y, or Z, ticked off 100 things or 5,000 things? That's not the key. That's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this to just try and be me. And so, a lot of that for myself is of course, there's a list of exciting things. And yes, that's fantastic. But it's led me down into a direction of helping other people. My mask is firmly on my face, and now I'm helping other people where I can.
And organically, that has just spun off to you going out there and writing a book. And, people ask you to stand on stages and speak from experience. And, you're internally impacting people, not even knowing that you'd monetize it. But, for the average human being out there that wants to chase the money all the time because they lose sight of who they truly want to be and what the task is and why should they complete it. Why is chasing the money, chasing the money, why will that allow them to sink rather than chasing the vision and chasing the goal?
Sure. Well, I think that for some people, money is important, and it really does turn them on, as, me helping someone, really excites me. And so that's fine. That's fine. But I think if you're just doing it for the money because that's kind of what you're expected to do, I started a business because I thought that's what you needed to do, and I just became really sad. I think the reason it kind of, as you say, makes you sink when you have the focus on the wrong thing is because it doesn't actually fulfill or align or switch on your values. And when you aren't living in a way that's aligned with your values, you feel empty, you get depressed, you have a midlife crisis, you consider darker things, and if anyone ever feels any of that sort of stuff, I just feel what a perfect opportunity for you to take a step back and go, okay, who am I? Who would I like to be? If nothing mattered, if the only thing that mattered today was going to sleep with, a smile on my face, if the only thing that mattered today was, I could tell my daughter, my son, my future children, this is what I did on this day, what would you like that to be? That's a good starting point. And I guarantee that it's not necessarily, I want to make $1 million today. Who cares? Who cares? And I do feel also on the money thing that, not that I'm, incredibly kind of allowed to speak about this, as you are, very qualified. But the money finds you. If you follow your purpose, if you're doing the stuff that really makes a difference for you and it happens to have a really incredible byproduct for other people, the money finds you.
Definitely does. So, what is one of the most emotional, moments on how you turned around and you saved someone's life or you impacted them, and there was just that, before you close your eyes at night, you realize, hey, today was actually worth it?
I mean, there's so many examples. One that just... one that popped in my head was there was a lady called Helen. Essentially, this lady, Helen, had a terminal illness. She didn't have long to live. One of her last wishes was to go skiing. So I shared that story with my community, and within a few days, it was completely organized. No one donated money, by the way. Money isn't the key to helping people. It's energy and time and care and consideration. So we had everything donated. I rang up the family. I rang up Helen in a hospital bed. She's very excited. 4 days before she went down to touch the snow for the first time in her life, she passed away. She never got to do it, which was horrible. I spoke to her husband afterwards, and it was a really sad conversation, but it was inspiring because he said to me, one of the last conversations that he had with Helen was that she wanted all the good that had been donated to her to be passed on to someone else. And so I basically shared that story online. And I said, her dying wish was to help somebody else achieve her goal. And I said, is there anyone else out there who knows of someone who deserves to go to the snow? And we found an elderly lady who wanted to, and she had an incredible story as well. And she got to touch the snow. I had nothing to do with it other than I was just like an amplifier. I just connected these people. And even talking about the story now, I just like, oh gosh, I wouldn't change a thing about my life just because I can't even tell. It doesn't even matter why, because I just wouldn't. And that feeling that's the feeling you get, I think, when you're living on purpose. And we all deserve to be living on purpose.
So you've become the messenger rather than the message.
Yeah, I think so. I always try to take it back. It's kind of funny because a lot of people try and put me, yes, I'm an author, I'm a host, I speak, and that's great. But I always like to take the back seat. I would just rather create something that can just scale instantly and I love the idea of like grassroots up. I think there's a lot of power in people. And I think if you give opportunity to people, that's when magic happens. It shouldn't be dependent on just me. So whether I'm the messenger or I don't care. I just like the idea that I'm now creating a thing through this new platform, Kindsome, which allows people to be good.
Tell me a bit about it.
Well, what was happening is I stopped my list at 72 because I realized I just enjoyed helping people. So I started helping people, and then a reality show came my way very organically. Don't know how not smart enough to know how to organize that. It just came. So I did that. It was fantastic. But the reality of the show was for every one person we helped, we had to say no to 100. And that was a problem for me. I didn't like that. So I started sharing these kind of stories that we never got to use online. And I said, hey, this is someone who needs help. Who can help them? And then these complete strangers from all over the world would go, we can help them. And this person would be helped.
Movement.
Yeah. So I found accidentally that I was kind of in the middle of a very accidental marketplace. On one side, people needed help. On the other, people wanted to help. They just didn't know how to meet. So I thought, let me just create like an online meeting, like online dating, but for acts of kindness. And so I moved to America. Here I am. And I've just been, for the last 2 years building and trying to forge the way forward with this. And it's been a super incredible journey. I'm out of my comfort zone entirely. Business isn't necessarily my thing. I know why I'm doing it, and that's what drives me. But yeah, Kindsome it's a platform to scale and activate human kindness so that anyone anywhere can either be helped or help instantly.
I mean, back home in South Africa, we have Nelson Mandela Day.
Yeah.
And where people take out over an hour. And, just on that specific day, they dedicate themselves to say, hey, I did something or I've sacrificed. I believe it should be a daily thing. And if not just daily, it should be where you're not consciously focused on changing someone's life or impacting a situation. It should happen naturally.
Completely. And if you think about the last time that you helped somebody in whatever capacity, a smile, helping with a shopping bag, whatever, it doesn't have to be drastic. And think about how you felt. That's moving. It really is. When I speak on stage and I sort of tell my story from why I started my list to some things I've ticked off to me then helping somebody, whenever I talk about helping somebody, everyone's in tears. So it's without knowing subconsciously, we are, again, a very positive human condition is that we're wired to help people out. We're here to connect. We want to, we have the ability. The issue is that we just don't know how to. So that's kind of what I see my role as now. I'm trying to figure out, and I think I have it in Kindsome, the best way to create opportunities for people in a really like kind of fuss-free, quick, instant way. And if I was going to die tomorrow, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd do this interview hoping that it would inspire somebody, and I'd go straight home and I'd work on it some more, and then I'd die happy. But I won't die. And that's why I think this will be successful. Not because I won't die, but because I'm just committed to it.
So after you help someone set a goal, what is your process to help them achieve it?
Well, I mean, essentially, I don't try and like teach anything. I think we all have the ability. I think there's certainly a process to it. I think one interesting thing that I learned on my story was, I'd have a goal and I would just try and pre-plan and really kind of like think, what's the best way to do that? And then do it. What I found that works better for me is I'll have a goal and I will just go for it. I'll pull the trigger, go for it. And it's then a matter of, you create opportunity for yourself so you can be very much responsive. You can proactively think about things, of course. But yeah, you just got to pull the trigger and go. And that's when things happen. But I've just thought of this analogy. I don't use this often. I think it's true though. A bird, I think, right, when it flies for the first time, just jumps off the branch and then just kind of realizes on the way down, open the window. And that's the same with the goal. You just got to go for it. And it's as simple as that. Again, it just comes down to action. You can kind of, I could probably make money writing a book about the intricacies and how hard it is but I have the secret, but it's not that. It's just easy. Come up with a goal, do it.
So where to here? What's your next move? What's your next step?
I'm completely committed to Kindsome. Yeah, I've got some very interesting conversations at the moment on the table with some big organizations who want to onboard Kindsome as a volunteering platform. So that excites me because it scales kindness, has a bigger impact. There's a potential show, which I can't talk about, but sort of just did. So I just care about that, developing the platform. And as long as I'm continuing to be myself along the way, that's it. That's it for me. It's pretty simple.
Talk me through your experience when you came to Africa. Botswana.
Yeah.
National rugby team.
Yeah. So on my list, I think it's number 46. I wanted to represent a country at something. The issue is I'm average at everything. And but my mum is Mauritian. So I applied for a Mauritian passport. I got it. I then flew to Mauritius to try and find a sport they were so bad at that it just made me the best, which is a lot harder said than done, or done than said. So I tried petanque. I had a meeting with the Olympic Committee and I suggested I should be the first Winter Olympian because I don't have a Winter Olympic team. They said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I can't even ski. It's just an idea." And they asked me to leave. It was hilarious. This actually happened. But I used to play rugby 13 years previous to this moment. And so I bought a pair of rugby boots. I turned up for a local team. The Cowboys, the Western Cowboys, they allowed me to play a game, and then I went to the trials and I made the Mauritian national rugby team. So, as you say, we got flown to Botswana to play in the African Championships, Group 1C, and we won the whole tournament. It was fun. I had to learn a new national anthem. I played out of position. I hadn't played in 13 years. I think I was 34 at the time. I'm still sore from it, and it was years ago. It was just such a bizarre experience, and it all happened in 6 weeks. And the thing I really liked about it is a lot of people see what I do, and they think there's a suggestion that I'm invincible. I can do anything, or people help me along the way. That must have been pre-organized. You getting in the and no, I flew to Mauritius, and I was an idiot. I just tried my best, and with tenacity and creativity and application and a dream to spark it all, and then of course the help of others, because we as individuals, we're the spark for sure, but you need the community, you need the other people, the stakeholder. They're the people that really fan this into a big fire, and that's what I found over there. And I've got friends forever. I've got incredible memories of this experience, and I managed to go to Gaborone, Botswana, win this championship with a squad of amazing humans.
Sebastian, you're limitless. Are you documenting all of this? Yeah,
I have been for no purpose other than just to, the people who follow me. I think it'd be interesting for them. Along the way, yes, it's been documented. I have like an ESPN's feature and plenty of other documentaries on Discovery Channel and stuff. But I if I was more strategic, I would say yes. Click here but it's just not organized, which is my bad. But yeah, I am documenting to a degree. I'm actually going through a process right now of trying to backtrack to become more easily found.
This is partially recording some things that's documenting it, where people can actually lead them to, hopefully one day going out there and ticking off a bucket list with you, going out there and creating a memory. Thank you so much for being on the Millionaire Student Show and for your wisdom, your knowledge, and your experiences.
I hope it made sense. Thank you for having me.
Definitely does. Thank you so much for that.